Dear friends, welcome back. The first question that comes to the mind is, why should allopaths need to understand homeopathy? All this noise about integrative healing, does it really make sense? Isn't allopathy a science in itself? I'm going to take a little detour and we shall be talking about a little bit of philosophy. And the heading of this particular lesson is the Plato's Cave, and this is the first part. In the second part, we shall be seeing the clinical application of what we shall learn in this video lesson. Plato, as all of you know, was a Greek philosopher. In ancient times, he was born in 428 before current era, and he died in 348 BCE. He was a student of Socrates. Aristotle was another famous student of Socrates. So Aristotle and Plato were contemporary philosophers, and they molded Western thought, and even the medical thought of today is largely molded by the ideas of Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. The reason why I am introducing this lesson is that at least in India, unfortunately, medical students do not learn a word about philosophy. They don't learn it in high school, and when they come to medical school, they are so busy learning other clinical subjects in science that philosophy is not included in their syllabus. You can go to the website shown below, and if you do a word search on the syllabus of MBBS, which is Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Science, at the premier institute of medicine in India, the All India Institute of Medical Science, and you do a word search for the word philosophy, you will find that this word does not even occur once. Those are the results of the word search, 0 out of 0. I'm referring to one of Plato's chapters in his books, which is known as the Allegory of the Cave. This is a hypothetical situation in which Plato talks about a dark cave inside which are chained prisoners who have been there since birth. They have not seen the outside world. They are chained on their legs and their neck, so they can't move their head around, and they can't even walk out of the cave. This is just a hypothetical situation. Behind them is a fire that is burning, and there are some people who are controlling what they see on the wall in front of them. Under normal circumstances, the cave is dark and there is a wall which is also dark and which they cannot see. When the fire is lit, at that particular time, they can see something that is projected on the wall. And what is projected on the wall are a set of shadows. So these people give the shadows different names. They see what is going on and they form their own ideas and they have their own impressions. But strictly, these images are controlled by the puppet masters who are sitting behind them, and they cannot see who their puppet masters are. This is in essence the allegory of the cave. Those of you who are interested can read the whole book, which is in the references section. Now, what happens is that out of these prisoners, one of them, by some strange miracle, is able to free himself from the chains, and he fumbles his way out of the cave. First of all, the prisoner who was free was overjoyed. He was able to move his body around, and as he moved about, he found that there was a little space to crawl out of, and there was a light coming out of that place. It seemed to be like a long tunnel, but when he finally got out, he saw bright light. At first, he was blinded by the bright light because he was not accustomed to it. In fact, he thought he might even die. However, after a few more moments, after a little while, his eyes got adjusted to the light, and what he saw around was a beautiful scene. For the first time, he saw color. He saw different shapes. He saw animals and birds and their accompanying chirping. He was able to see the reflection of things in water. This was all such a wonderful experience. And as the night approached, he decided to return to the cave. He saw all of his friends who were there and they were still tied. He told them of what a beautiful sight he had seen. They could not believe him. In fact, they did not believe him. And they said that what he was saying was all rubbish and just a construct of his mind created to fool him. So by and by he started going out and he saw newer things and he came and told his friends. Some of them very reluctantly agreed to free themselves and accompany him. All of us start at the same place. We are all in the dark and we are just absorbing and accepting whatever is projected on the wall of our mind. Some of us venture out. Sometimes the leading light, like the light at the end of the tunnel, is education. It may be some skill, but that is not the end of the tunnel and that's not the real world. We must be open to all these ideas so that we are not like the slaves inside the cave. This particular course is going to set you on that path because medicine does not begin or end with allopathy. It is a healing art, and an artist must be able to use all the colors on his palette to bring forth the expression of his mind, his heart, and his calling. And the calling of each one of you is that of healing. If you take a deeper look at various things that shape us as human beings, as members of society, as the professionals that we are, these factors are education, culture, the effects of politics around us, the influence of religion on our thoughts and our minds, and of course, the influence of media. All these things are projected onto our mind, just like the puppets on the wall. And we have no control over this. A lot of this stuff is, of course, very useful. It helps us to navigate the world. It gives us power. It helps us to help others as well. But always we must remind ourselves that we don't go back to the dark cave of Plato. Today, these puppeteers and the puppets and the fire that was there has been replaced by various other influences. We have to be very careful in judging what is knowledge. We may not be chained. We may be, in fact, in a very comfortable position. But what this person is seeing on the wall, we must always remember, is really the image or the reflection or the shadow of a light. And we cannot see who is controlling that. Always remember that as doctors, when we see various reports, we see x-rays, we see angiograms, we see test reports of the blood, of urine, we see colonoscopies, so many things we see, pregnancy tests, mammograms, you name it, brain MRIs, stress tests. Always remember that these things are shadows of a reality and they are not the reality itself. They are simply shadows. I'm trying to emphasize this point because in our medical system, especially in India, there is no reference to philosophical thinking. Even though medical science, especially allopathy, has been shaped by great philosophers like the ones I mentioned earlier, Socrates, Aristotle, Plato himself, and in later years by people like Paracelsus and so many others. They also had been great philosophers. So let us philosophize our education and take a fresh look at what we do in our clinic and our daily practice. Those of you who wish to pursue this particular subject further, a starting point could be this particular article which appeared in the American Journal of Medicine way back in 2006. That is the link for this particular article which appears at the bottom of the slide. And now in the next video we shall be talking about how this knowledge applies in the clinic while dealing with patients.